Welcome to the Noclip Crewcast, episode 210. We got a full crew here today, but not for long. Frank Howley's heading off to Japan once again. Frank Howley, how excited are you to be a pirate Yakuza in Japan?
Oh my God! I'm so excited. This will be my third time within the span of a year, which I don't know if we'll ever be able to match that record again. But my friend, we have wrestling tickets booked. I'm very excited. There's so many anime pop-ups and stores and things like that. And I even a week ago, not even 3 days ago, I had never heard of this show. It's called Konosuba, and I saw that there was a pop-up, and I was like, that looks great. Let me try to watch as much of this anime so that I can become a fan within a week and then buy all the merchandise. So that's going well. So yeah, I'm very I don't know. I don't even go outside of my house when I live in, when I'm here, but when I'm in Japan, it's oh my God, there's so much to do. So I'm very excited.
What's the weather like this time of year?
It's right now in California, actually, well, it's been in the 60s, but at night it'll get to the 50s. In Japan right now, it's the 40s and the 40s Fahrenheit. So a little cold, but not freezing. I've done Montreal in winter, and that's not that crazy, 20s and 30s, but it's okay, I can handle this. And if not, I'll just buy clothes at Uniqlo. So I'm all set.
Perfect. Yes, yeah. Exactly. And you continued to avoid the fires. When we did the podcast last week, it was just kicking off, it sounded like. Those are some pretty nasty goddamn fires. That's crazy, the amount of damage that was done up north. But yeah, nothing down by you guys.
No, Orange County itself has been safe. It's been extremely windy, so it's there is potential, but I think everyone's on alert. And I've had friends on the edge of evac zones. I know someone who's I've had friends whose families' houses have been lost and stuff like that. It's and even I was just saying to Danny before we recorded, it's starting to cool down a bit, but social media last week, it was just so overwhelming. And now you're seeing a lot of efforts for donation centers, relief and stuff, which is nice to see, but not unless house is actively burning. So.
Man, that new law about I think it was just only a couple of weeks ago about the whole, some insurance companies are obviously pulling out of doing fire insurance in certain counties. We had an awful time here trying to get fire insurance. It ended up being some underwriter in Kentucky or something through State Farm or so. It was really hard to and we're not even in a fire zone. You know what I mean? It's I'm in, West Petaluma. There's not that many. Look at my backyard and there's fields. There's not trees. Obviously grass can go on fire, but I felt for it's all the people who don't have insurance, who couldn't get insurance or had insurance and the insurance got pulled out. That's devastating. Cost of those, cost of living, and it's wild. Yeah, we had a lot of friends who were evacuated, and then we had other friends whose parents had also been evacuated, so they didn't know where to go. And then there's all this price gouging going on Zillow and Airbnb, which I think is illegal now because they did the whatever, called it a national emergency or whatever, a state emergency or whatever it is. So basically makes putting prices higher than 10% illegal. Crazy stuff. Our thoughts with everyone down in SoCal, any of our listeners, a lot of game dev down there, of course, as well. It was right licking up to Santa Monica, which obviously has bunches of studios, several of which we've been at. And similarly, nobody I know directly has lost a home. I was just checking in on some people. Jeremy Jane, you were in Northern. Well, I mean, we're always in Northern California.
Even more northern.
Yes, exactly. You were fleeing the fires. You were getting far away from the fires as possible.
I had a psychic intuition that farther south was dangerous, so I just went as north as possible. Yeah, I was up in Mendocino County for a couple weeks. My girlfriend lives far away, so we occasionally go away for a couple weeks together, usually around the holidays. And It was great, yeah. I felt bad. It was weird seeing like so many people having a hard time with the fire stuff and being like, I'm so relaxed. Like
Right.
it's a very weird friction.
Surrounded by trees too.
Yeah,
Mendo,
yeah.
it's like all woods, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it was great. We just spent a lot of time outside chilling. We watched the original Star Wars trilogy for the first time since I was probably 10 years old.
Oh, nice.
And played a bunch of Final Fantasy XII, which is a fucking fantastic game. I was shocked to find out how good it was. And yeah, it was really nice. I feel like the last year I have I don't know. I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, but the last year I've basically done nothing but work and do game dev at my desk for, I don't know, like 95% of the year. So it, I don't. It's easy to like lose yourself in things because you care about them, and then you take a step back and you're just like sitting outside reading a book, and you're like, oh yeah, this can be a part of life too, or something. It sounds so fucking stupid to say it like that, but you kind of lose sight of just basic like leisure stuff when you're caught up doing things.
I believe the kids call it touching grass, Jeremy.
Yes, I was touching a lot of grass. I was walking around
to
barefoot, grounding, and just fucking recentering myself with the
Namaste.
earth. Yeah, exactly.
Mr.
With Mother
Jeremy.
Gaia.
Amazing. How's Mother Gaia doing up in Canada, Jesse? You guys are all pagans up there, right?
You know us. We're always praying to leaves. I don't know. Yeah, it's good up here. There's no fires and it's not too cold. It's
Wow, the sweet
you know
zone.
what? Canada's a beautiful country and it looks gorgeous outside all the time, even when it's snowy. Except for when you're in you guys know. Well, I guess you're in California, so you don't know that well anymore. But Danny, you remember.
What?
Jeremy, you remember.
We
Snow,
didn't.
you know
We
what that
got.
was like.
We do not get snow in Ireland. Although global warming has sort of changed.
Well,
that.
you were on the East Coast for a while, right?
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
so-
Ireland we had.
Whenever you're driving around,
much
it's nice
snow.
when it falls at first, and then after that, it's all dark and
Yeah.
dirty and full of carbon dioxide.
It's so easy to romanticize though, because like every time I think about the winter and there's just because California has like there's like fire season, there's not fire season, it rains sometimes, but there's not like these delineated sections of like the world transforms into snow. So it's very easy to romanticize when you're far away from it, and then you're back in it for 2 months and you're like, oh shit, I have to scrape my car windows at 6 a.m. and like
See, the snow is always whiter on the other side. That's how the saying works.
Right.
that's so true, dude.
That's beautiful. Stick that on that should be on like a trad wife, sign inside of a kitchen.
Yeah, that does sound a bit like a MAGA
Yeah,
shirt.
it does as
Veiled.
well.
It's a dog whistle about the
That's
weather.
true.
Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. Fire season used to be a thing where, like, in October, I'd be like, whew, we made it out. But apparently, there's like this sort of Final Fantasy VII overworld bonus fire season that just popped out of nowhere in January down in SoCal. I guess I didn't know about.
Is the climate changing? Is that what it is, perhaps?
Actually, I think it's predominant. Maybe that's part. I'm sure that is part of it. But also, it's the you get those crazy winds coming from the high desert, right? Those Santa Ana winds, which fueled the whole thing as well. Unbelievable. We're lucky we live close to San Francisco, which for some reason just has like this little dirty pocket of fog sitting over it all the time, which is very confusing to me still, that you can be blazing hot all over Northern California, and then you cross the bridge into San Francisco and it's like 25 degrees colder. Like, what the fuck?
This is a very specific reference for about 5 people out there, but in Heroes of Might and Magic 3,
Wow. Yes, correct.
If you play the Undead Kingdom, they have a special building that you can only build in that kingdom, and it creates a shroud of fog around. So like the fog of war is permanent around your base, so people can't see what you're
Wow.
doing. And every time I drive into San Francisco and it's like a pocket of fog and sunny everywhere else, I think of it as a sort of techno capital necromancer's kingdom.
That's amazing. Does it look like, Coit Tower or the Transamerica building?
It does kind of. They do have like there's a skeleton transformer that might look a little like Coit Tower, if I recall correctly.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. Looks like the Salesforce Tower or something.
yeah. I think there's some necromancers that work there, honestly.
There fucking should be, hopefully, because like they built that tower and nobody fucking moved in. COVID happened immediately. They built the biggest tower in the city with all and they were like, here we go. And then work from home, and still nobody works there. So yeah, really, they should. If you're a necromancer, go call up Salesforce. I'm sure they'd love to give you some free office space, free paper, and all the copiers. Our paper is free thanks to the good people who are patrons of our Patreon. Patreon.com/Noclip. We're an independent team of weirdos who make documentaries about video games, new and old, mostly old, and mostly thanks to our patrons. Although you, dear listener, you're also part of the wonderful community. You can join up to our Patreon for free if you want, and you also get little bonus things here and there too. We're going to be doing a bunch of changes. Looks like the first week of February, we're going to be rolling in some changes into the Patreon, trying to get some more patrons in there, doing one of our pushes. Our rare pushes. But massive thanks to all of our patrons, and including our Battle Pass holders, keeping the podcast ship afloating. It's a me, Ferrario, Penelope Hayes, Senator Armstrong, Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Tucker Morgan, David McGarry, Sven Hooster, Pez, Aaron L. White, Ewan Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Laird, Zachary Snader, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Dakotas, Jacob Godserve, Tohir Teliev, and Ryson. Thank you to all of you, incredible Battle Pass holders. Gentlemen, I want to try something a little bit different before we talk about our games. There's stuff that sometimes happens in the world.
This is true.
That is
quite often.
And it's sometimes that has stuff to do with video games. And sometimes those things that happen are of interest to other people. And usually they find these things out on like Reddit and social media and things like that. But there was a time where the only place you could find out about new things was in this thing called the news. So I thought we'd put some of this. I know it's a bit of a throwback.
All right, Grandpa, settle down. Stop inventing things. People used to read papers with news.
I thought you were going to say that people only used to get news from podcasts, and I was very confused for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that too. Yeah, obviously. Sorry. Well, when magazines died, video game magazines died, the only place you could get video game news was from the hotspot, big spot for a couple of years there. We're not going to turn this podcast into a news podcast, but there are some things that are interesting that we should probably talk about a little bit. Did any of you guys see the trailer for Blood of the Dawnwalker, which I'm still not sure about?
I'm seeing it right now.
So this is the Rebel Wolves, which is the I almost said breakaway studio. I think that's probably a little bit reductive, but it's a team of a lot of ex-CDPR people, CD Projekt Red people in Warsaw, and I assume people from Techland and some of the other studios around there too, working on what looks like a very sort of witchy game, like
it looks like it.
Medieval style fantastical RPG where you control a gentleman who I think might have hair that is considered long. He could use a brush. He could use a comb. The game is it's called Blood of the Dawnwalker. So they released a cinematic trailer, which is your sort of tone setting CG piece, and then there's maybe 15 seconds of quote unquote gameplay at the end of it, showing it off. Have any of you guys seen this? This would be a great start to our news if no one's actually seen this except for me.
It's news to me. No,
it's news to all of us.
Did you guys know about this studio at all even?
Yeah, I knew about Rebel Wolves. I remember there being a big hullabaloo about it a couple years ago, and everyone was excited for whatever they were doing next, or whatever they were doing first, I guess. So it's good that the team or some of the people who brought us The Witcher are bringing us not The Witcher.
I'm not mad about the name, I'll be honest. I think Dawnwalker is like the series title, and the first one is going to be called Blood of the Dawnwalker, and they want to turn this into like a bunch of them.
It's actually just The Blood of Dawnwalker.
The Blood of Dawnwalker.
Oh, you're right.
There's no
the blood.
No,
I hate those though.
I instantly Mandela affected myself. When there's like an old thing, you're like, I can't believe it's the Berenstain Bears. I did that, but in the span of 5 seconds, and I can't believe that the title isn't Blood of the Dawnwalker. All within this 5 seconds, I found.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was Blood of the Dawnwalker.
It is.
It says The Blood of Dawnwalker.
No, it's The Blood of Dawnwalker.
Oh, is it?
I'm getting Mandela.
That's just because I wrote down the fucking name wrong.
No, the YouTube video.
Because it rolls off the tongue better, Blood of the Dawnwalker.
the YouTube video is The Blood of Dawnwalker.
Sorry, The Blood of Dawnwalker. Well, this is a great start to our news. I wrote down the fucking name wrong as well. This is amazing. The Blood of Dawnwalker. Blood of the Dawnwalker. The Blood of Dawnwalker is better.
Really?
It's more unique for sure.
You wouldn't have written it down.
It sounds a little. It sounds translated to me, but in a way that makes it enigmatic and interesting.
The Blood of Dawnwalker. You know what it is? I think, and apologies to people who named this video game. I feel like complaining about the names of games is something that we all, as card-carrying gamers, get to do. Like that's just sort of part of it. But I think it's when it's when you do like a it's not a portmanteau. What is it when you combine two words together? Whatever that is.
That's a portmanteau.
Is it a portmanteau? Yeah. So Dawnwalker. I think that's what it is. I think it's like whenever I see a portmanteau, I want it to be on its own. If you stick it in a sentence, it starts to get heavy. It starts to be like, oh, like Dark Souls works. It's like the blood of Dark Souls. I guess Dark Souls is 2 words, so this is a bad example. Give me another one. Bloodborne. The blood of Bloodborne.
Darkstalkers.
What'd you say?
Darkstalkers.
Darkstalkers, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Close to Dawnwalker too.
That's true.
And even on their own, they're a little bit something too. I think maybe it's like Dawn and Walker, like Born, B-O. Is it U-R-N-E or B-O? No, it's B-O-R-N-E. That's like a fucking cool word. That's a weird word, Elden Ring. So there's a weird. You need one weird word. So that's what we figured out. Elden and Born. The fuck
that is
is
true.
That about,
yeah,
right?
if I need to Google half of your combined title word, that's your bespoke word. That's a good sign, because then I'm like, what the fuck is an Elden?
Even Dark Souls, even though it's not a portmanteau, that's kind of fucked. Like Souls, like fuck you. That's evocative. Whereas Dawn and Walk are neither. Needs to be something like Dawn Ring. No, not Ring. Elden Dawn.
Elden Walker. I think, you should call them up and say, have you guys considered Elden Walker, the Blood of Elden Walker as the title?
Yes, please. You've just announced your game, but please just reverse that a little bit and we'll go again.
It's a double Mandela. It's the perfect PR stunt.
Is it the thing like Corn where it just doesn't matter what you call something, which I actually think is bullshit. I think Corn is actually an example of the opposite. I think Corn is even funnier because
like the food or the band?
No, the band.
Okay.
Or no, that was Limp
You can
Bizkit,
call
wasn't
Corn
it?
whatever you want.
Was it Limp Bizkit who were like, you can just call your band whatever, so we just called it whatever? I don't know. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah, honestly, I would play. There's this, I think about this every time people talk about aesthetics in video games, whether that's like visual presentation, which is obviously like more important because it's part of the whole experience more pervasively, but also titles. There was a reader write-in in Nintendo Power in like 1996, and it's burned into my brain. I'll never forget it for some reason. And someone was like, all these people write in, they're complaining about this and complaining about that. Like, I don't fucking care as long as the games are fun. And he was like, if you made a game about a pear going upstairs and it was called like Super Pear Stare, if it was fun, I would play it. And I think about the Pear Stare letter every day, almost 30 years later.
That's a good point. Is this a byproduct of the only thing we have to go on is the name? So that's the only thing you can criticize.
On a 4-minute long cinematic trailer.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The trailer seems interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer is tonally okay. I'm like an outsider on CD Projekt. I have played a little bit of Witcher. I've played a little bit of Cyberpunk. I've not super been hooked by either, but I have a lot of respect for them. I feel like this trailer feels very tonally similar to the Witcher 4 trailer that was at the Game Awards, which is like, I feel like it's not a bad thing, because I feel like people who are like, oh, interesting, a bunch of ex-Witcher people, what are they working on, would want something that's like a different flavor but tonally comparable, as opposed to like if they made a unicorn game, it would be a little whiplash.
It's interesting seeing a lot of the CDPR people and the folks at Rebel Wolves being like very, from what we've interviewed one of the Rebel Wolves folks for the Cyberpunk doc, so you know what I mean, like and that was like we got in contact through CD Projekt, so like there's clearly, I think they probably both understand that starting some sort of war in the fandom is probably the last thing either of them wants, but I think it's going to be difficult, especially with like they seem to have a male protagonist, and obviously there was a bunch of people getting really pissy about the fact that Ciri was the main character in 4. Some of which was probably a lot of which is probably people who had never touched a Witcher game and were just, being weird.
I thought you were going to say people who've never touched a woman. Is what I thought.
No, yeah, sorry.
Also true.
One and the same. One of the somebody who was online 14 hours a day complaining about. Did you see that website where there's a website where they've started to rank games based on the DEI. They
How
give
woke
them like
they
a
are.
score.
Twitter?
No.
Oh, it's like a separate thing. Okay.
It's fascinating because you can see the sort of copium of them trying to bend games they know people like. To like Disco Elysium got like a really good like non-woke because it has like, there's an authoritarian racist in it, and it's like you You were squinting to see what you want in this video game.
Fallout New Vegas, not woke, because I can be friends with future Hitler. All right, sure.
Exactly.
Whatever works, man.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. But anyway, the Dawn of Bloodwalker. I said it right that time, right? Check out the trailer.
The Blood of Dawn.
I think you said. Did you say the Dawn of Bloodwalker?
Did I say that?
I don't know. Am I hallucinating?
I think I didn't want to say you got it because I felt like he said something wrong too. But
I've lost the
let's
plot.
just say you said the Blood of
Listeners
Dawnwalker.
will only know the truth.
I am only making this more confusing for everyone. I'm sorry. The game from Rebel Wolves. Check it out. Can we stick the links in the description, Jesse? Is that cool? We'll just
Of course,
chuck it
as
in
for
there.
always.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Go check it out. I don't think you can add it on your friend list or add it on your friend list.
I'm
Jesus
friending
Christ.
the Blood.
Having a
Me and
stroke.
Dawnwalker, we go
Add it on
way
your
back.
friends list.
Having a stroke.
Look
News
it up on the
segment's going
Facebook,
so
maybe.
good.
If I pass out right now, please call my wife. Oh my God. I shouldn't be here. I should be playing Hyper Light Breaker because it came out of early access the second we started recording. Yes, it is available right now. Here's the price. $30 normal, $26.99 is the cost. And you get Hyper Light Drifter thrown in as well. For good measure, which is pretty cool. It's about $20 game on its own. Yes, this is the game from Heart Machine. We have been covering them for the past year and a half, 2 years, the development of this game. The early access has been delayed numerous times. The studio has been going through a lot of difficulty pretty much constantly through all this because they were embroiled in the Embracer acquisition of their publisher and then selling of their publisher. The whole thing went very strange. It used to be Gearbox San Francisco. Now they're called Arc Publishing. Who knows what went on behind the scenes in terms of milestone payments or marketing or anything like that. I suspect there's probably a lot going on, and probably some of it we'll be able to get on camera, and probably a lot of it will be lost to time because of people not wanting to burn bridges and things like that. That's the vibe that I get from this is that they are going through a really difficult time on the business side. That said, this game has been cooking for a good bit of time. They've pushed it back from early access twice, so I assume this version is in a much more early access ready situation than it was before. I have no idea though. I have to jump in and play it. I was excited to play it. I was excited to jump in and play the early access version, and I'm probably going to do it right after this podcast. So we'll have to see. It'll be out a couple of days, obviously, by the time this podcast goes up. You guys gonna jump on in, play some Breaker? Frank, you're definitely on the gameplay train for this one.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing I was thinking about was like, do I buy this so I can play it on the Steam Deck on my Japan trip, or wait till I'm back home and then just actually record gameplay of it? But yeah, this is a game I even played at Summer Games Fest, and I liked this was over 6 months ago at this point. But even 6 months ago, it played really great. The open world stuff kind of even felt like Destiny, running around shooting stuff. You're getting loot, but you can also ride around on a hoverboard, and I'm interested to see all the progression stuff. And so yeah, again, also we mentioned it last week, but the art style for these games are always so incredible, and so it's exciting to finally have a new game out from them too.
Yeah, big time. I'm excited to see what the reception is to it.
I've managed to stay as blind as humanly possible, considering we've been covering the studio. I mean, as blind as you can be when watching someone fuck around in engine, standing behind their desk working on the game itself. I'm psyched for this one. I think part of the thing that is interesting to me is I think it's easy to assume when you see a game with deadlines pushed back that has gone through sort of different phase changes, and that they've changed the format and shuffled things around. And also, they have done 3D games before, obviously, but it still feels like a genre-wise, a departure from things that they've done before. So I think that the way I've interpreted that, being a little more in contact with them and seeing them work on it through the docs and stuff that we've worked on, is that I think they've had a really honest, iterative approach to what makes this game fun and what's interesting about this game. And I think I'll be curious to see. I feel like they really built the game they wanted to make, and then listened to what they made, and were like, there is a better version of this game here that will take longer to make. And even though that is it's the easy decision is to rush it out and make an inferior game and be like, that's cool. Maybe the next game will be that version of it. But I really feel like they just honed in on what this game needed to be and listened to it in a way that I really have a lot of respect for, and I think makes a better game. So I'm psyched to see kind of where they landed with it.
Yeah. Jesse, sorry, you were going to say something too.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I watched. I was talking about it last week. I'm excited for it. I watched a 9-minute gameplay thing from IGN, which was really good. Seems really fun. I think they've taken what worked with Hyperlight Drifter and put it into 3D, and that's really all you can ask for with this kind of bigger expansion. I don't know what it's going to be like in the large of it. It's 9 minutes, so they were cutting it down to like, here's a boss fight, here's what it's like when you interact with things. I'd like to see like a full 20, and I can do it myself by playing the game, 20-minute long stretch of just what it's like moment to moment. But I was also curious what the thoughts are for the game, and I'm not going to turn this into what a dumb assholes have to say about video games hour. But
I think that's what this is already, isn't it?
That's a good point. Yeah, we don't need to.
Speaking
bring
for myself,
people. There's a lot of Steam curators that are stupid. I didn't realize there were so many that are just called like DEI detected, Sweet Baby Ink Patrol.
Oh yeah,
is it woke?
Yeah.
Awful. I hate it here. Follow the Noclip Steam curator. We don't say any of that dumb shit on it. So.
We're not fucking dumb chodes. Yeah.
What the hell?
Who need to? I don't know. I'm gonna say something I'm gonna regret if I keep going down that way. The thing that pisses me off, I think, about most of that. Actually, here, look, I'm gonna say as a gentleman, of course, I can stand here and say the thing that pisses me off is something that has nothing to do with how they're being awful to the opposite sex. I think obviously that goes without saying that shit is just like must make it fucking impossible to be a woman in these spaces. But I feel like the other thing that irks me about it, sort of as a you motherfuckers aren't real gamers sort of shit, is where my brain goes, is like there are so many things in this industry that we can improve that would make games better, and you are all wasting everyone's fucking time and energy and oxygen on this shit. Like, you were the stupidest and loudest people in the room. This is a fucking non-issue. Like, there are people who genuinely... There are people who are like not kayfabe, who like are just doing this because they're, shit heels and want to drum up anger and frustration and push people out of these spaces. And, in a way, at least they're being fucking honest about it. I hate those people for different reasons. I dislike them and think they're idiots, but it's all of the dipshits who follow along with it, who think that they're part of some sort of movement. Like all of it's like I wish we could have done the fucking, Inglorious bastards fucking forehead tattoo to all of the Gamergate people, so they had to carry that shit around with them forever. You know what I mean? So it'd be like, hey, do you remember when you were an idiot 5 years ago? Yeah, you don't get to be listened to anymore. Like, shut up. Like, you wasted your opportunity to be a relevant voice in this space because you're just wasting everyone's time. That's what irks me about it the most, is that we used to, there was always like system wars, and there was always anger and frustration about like, oh, they fucked up the new model on Mario or whatever, but at least like most of the energy felt like it was positive. And maybe it's reflective of what's going on in games as well. I don't know.
I think it's just reflective of the world. I think it's just a symptom of what always happens. Like you said, people can tell something's wrong with the games industry. They can tell something's going on where the games that they want aren't being made or whatever. And they're being lied to by people who are trying to profit off of them, that the problem is there's too many black women, or the problem is there's too many gay people. Or, oh my God, that's the real issue. And they've fallen for it. And it's part of me pities it. It's like, you're emboldening people who are trying to make the world a worse place just so you can feel like you don't have to really challenge your own tastes or interests. It's like, oh no, the problem is the games that I don't even want to play. That's the issue with the industry. Stuff that I have no interest in is the real core of the problem. It's just sad to watch people fall for that, and I hope in a couple years they can all sort of snap out of it. But the direction is not looking too hot.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
the sad, like one of the many sad downstream effects of it is that it also like muddies discourse about things that actually are wrong with the industry. Where it's like it just there are many things that, like I have many times on this podcast been critical of AAA as an industry and of AAA games and like the sort of conservative game design that a lot of these big tentpole titles embrace for business reasons, because it's safer to make a game that is a more familiar formula rather than wagering $100 million budget on like a radically different type of game. I mean, I'm not saying there's no experimentation or innovation at all in AAA. That's a ridiculous take, but like, I don't know. I think there are interesting conversations that are critical of AAA to have, and it's hard to have those conversations when you're like, AAA has some problems, and people are like, I know. And it's like, I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. You're in the grocery store. It's like, oh, things are so much worse now. Everything's so expensive, and you kind of have to do that check with the person if they're going to say it's because of the immigrants or something. No, I just wish we had more doctors.
It's like, oh, you want to see the price of fucking produce when the immigrants are out of this country, my friend. You don't know the empire that you're standing on. Sometimes living in America feels like you live in the capital from the Hunger Games. That's my sort of thing, is that like people don't realize that so much of what's like great about day-to-day life here outside of like the beautiful nature and things like that and other, stuff is obviously it's built on the back of a lot of colonialism and genocide, which is still ongoing today. But also it's I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. No, it is. It's also like the weird. This is sort of like the last politicized video game thing I'll say, but I do feel like it's also not only masking discourse about AAA games and stuff, but also like video games are like, this is the empathetic point, is that like video games are escapism for many people. There's something to like come home from your normal life and to do something that engages you, that feels like your passion and stuff. And I think when people feel alienated by the thing that is their escapism, they're very easy to then be taken advantage of, because it's like, I think that is why, as much as there is a personal responsibility angle that like you need to understand the arguments you're making, you need to like do research, you need to see if you're being taken in by a grifter with like bad intentions or whatever. The people who are this sort of like profiteering off of uncertainty and unhappiness and like discontent are sort of like they're the ones poisoning the well. And so I'm not absolving anyone of responsibility here, but I just like when life isn't good for you, or like money is tight, then you're like come home and play a video game and you're like, it doesn't feel right.
Money is tight, things are tough for me, man. Why are there black women? Why is there an afro option in my character creator? I know what you mean, but it's a little like,
it's a leap for sure. I am not expressing empathy for that perspective. I'm merely saying that the harder, the more like sparse or like difficult someone's material conditions are, the more easy it is to take advantage of those people and lead them towards easy solutions. And so it's like, I don't know. It's like you said, like living in the imperial core, but not always reaping the benefits of it. It's easy to then have someone be like, "Hey, you're so lucky to be like this and this and this. You have a position of great advantage," and you're like, "I fucking like cleaned toilets today all day," and it's like,
I have 3 jobs. I have like people's material conditions is like the most critical thing. And what the words I forgot was cheap labor before, which I think is swings both ways, I think, as well, because I think that's the problem that you're now seeing is a lot of people who were used to be part of the chosen few are now getting dragged into what ultimately makes this country rich, and then they're pointing at immigrants for dragging them down and not for the wealthy for pushing them down. But it's like at a certain stage, it's like really rote and boring saying these things, because like the same was true when we were teenagers. But it's like, if people can't see the fucking light, like, I don't know, it's very easy. Personally, I'm finding it quite difficult to be, particularly politically passionate and engaged about those things, because it's like you can keep banging the same drum over and over again. If people aren't going to listen to it, what the fuck do you do?
Because it's like it's like saying like capitalism bad. It's like, I know that, and like when you say it to me, I feel like not only preached to, but like you're expressing a truism that like I resonate with. But when you just say it plainly like that, I'm like, well, like, what the fuck are we gonna do about it? Like, I've stopped. Like, I don't know. It's weird how having to have the same conversations about like culture war stuff and also more sort of like material issues after a certain point, it's like we've talked about this so much that it's lost all potency.
Yeah, and I think we're, part of to bring it back to games a little bit is that the thing that worries me a little bit about, just from the less political, more sort of, fiscal aspect of capitalism is one of the things that scared me a lot when I worked in radio, seeing how consolidation and sort of monoculturalism basically killed music. Music is, there are still great artists out there. Japanese Breakfast put out a new album today. I'm excited to listen to it. But like, it's not like it was in the 90s or 80s or 70s, where you had bands who were, obviously the studio system wasn't great, but it was
Like commercial music you're talking about, like on the radio and stuff.
Yeah. We haven't smashed all the pianos yet. But
I was gonna say everyone's still kicking ass.
Yeah, but like it's like consolidation, and just like when you get to the stage where you have like a handful of global artists, like that's what I worry about with games, because we kind of already have that with Call of Duty and Fortnite being these big, Jesse, you were mentioning a couple of weeks ago, being these big, they've such a gravitational pull and they've so much influence already, and they have such built-in fans that then the next sort of thing that those companies are trying to do is to keep those fans and keep entertaining them, and like that's to keep them from playing other games essentially, because that's how they lose market share, and that's like kind of fucked. And I think that is a road to ruin. I think games end up not being interesting. And if you'd said to me in the 90s that people would be like listening to less music, or like that people wouldn't go to the cinema anymore, and you'd sort of instead movies would turn into this sort of, there are still great movies being made, don't get me wrong, but like a large amount of the time people watch movies, it's kind of easy to watch slop that's been written so that people can check their phones, and like that continues. That's not a plateau. That's a bell curve. That's a curve, and you end up in a situation like movies where they don't have the cultural power that they had before. And I worry that that's what's going to happen to games. And then right now we're sort of maybe at an apex where there's so many games being made that it feels like that's happening, but that might just be a byproduct of the amount of games that are in development and coming out, and mostly indie stuff and things like that. But I do worry that in 5 or 10 years' time, you're going to have fewer people who are interested in games. Like if I talk to, like I'm almost 40. Fuck, God help me. I'm 39 now. A lot of my friends or my kids' parents in the schools or whatever have older kids, right? Kids who are in their teenagers stuff. These kids don't play games, or if they do, they play like Fortnite to hang out with their friends. But they're doing lots of other things. Like it's not like it was when we were kids. That's a broad statement to make. I'd love to see some actual data on this stuff. But like the thing I keep hearing from people is that like it seems like this next generation, and kind of the generation before who were more into like Minecraft and then Fortnite and kind of stuck with one game for a while, they're not doing what we're doing, where they're buying 20 games a year. Like that's not what's happening. So like that's a worry in the future, because they're not doing it as teenagers. They're not going to do it in their fucking 20s and 30s, and they've got money. So that's what worries me about a lot of this as well. Although, would we all be happier if gaming, because we're not fucking going anywhere, so like would we all be happier if gaming was this little smaller cadre of people again, and who are here for the right reasons?
Only the cool guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, guys, that's the problem. We can't,
That's capital G.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is interesting though, like these sort of monoculture games that dominate the landscape, because like what you were saying about being a kid in the 90s or whatever, it's not that there kind of was no equivalent. Like there was like Counter-Strike was a big deal, but Counter-Strike wasn't like every single person I knew played Counter-Strike and hopped on after school at all. Right. I knew a few people who were really into it, a slightly larger pool of people who were aware of it and had maybe tried it, and then the majority of people who were like, I'm not really into like PC games or whatever, or like had a different relationship to games.
Totally. Like what was the first game? You think like Minecraft is the only one I can think of
as sort of like the big like monocultural event.
Yeah, World of Warcraft,
where it like pulled in people.
World of Warcraft is a good one, but it still was, I feel like, a little more niche.
I mean, you had to be 18 to play that game. So like, you had to have a fucking credit card.
You had to be 18 for your parents to buy the game.
Yeah, no, you couldn't have and it was hard back then to get. It wasn't like you could just go into the fucking gas station and get like a little Visa. Like it was legitimately difficult.
I had to convince my parents that Star Wars Galaxies was not an internet scam to get. I was like, here's the I'll put the money in your hand. They're like, yeah, but who gets the credit card number? And it's like Sony Online Interactive. Like, what do you mean? But yeah, no, it's just interesting because the I don't know what the solution is, because not having like the absence of like a Fortnite or a Call of Duty back in those days. I mean, Call of Duty came to exist at some point, but not in the way it exists now as like a monocultural pillar in the monolith in the center of the culture. It just meant that like everyone was trying out different games, and because those were sort of not the only options, there was a variety of options, but like Mario 64 or like Dark Forces or whatever were all these sort of parallel options that just appealed to different tastes and stuff. But it wasn't like if you were playing Mario 64, you were siphoned off while all of your friends did something else and they were all doing the same thing. So I don't think the solution is like those things not existing, obviously, because the genie's out of the bottle. But like, what is? Yeah, I don't know. What is like beyond that? Is there like some way to instill in people a value of, like having different experiences to like communicate to them the value of being like finding your own tastes and exploring different things and how that helps you grow as an individual and stuff? I feel like it's a very hard message to communicate to like a 10-year-old that plays Roblox.
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard to feed new information to people now, right? Everything's algorithmic. So if you're already on the Fortnite train, you're never going to see not never, but the chances of you seeing non-Fortnite video games is way lower. It's just it's a consistent loop when there's no curation done by humans, especially for younger people.
And you only, like, in my experience, at least when it comes to music, like the times where I'm looking for new music is when I have gotten bored of the music that I'm listening to. And because of that, probably because there's no such thing as radio now, where I just like, I hear a song and I go, oh, who are they? You know what I mean? Like that's very rare. I got into Bill Murray last year because my friend sent me a link to a music video. Like it was a direct plea from somebody. But yeah, I and that's where I think a lot of this whole, that's where I think there is it's almost like the McDonald's problem of like, they're so big, Epic and Activision, and these franchises are so big that they can just plop a fucking McDonald's on every street corner and it just kills competition. And they can keep adding game modes to these things and keep getting, artists and skins and IP and all this into this. And it kills anything else from trying to do it. I guess the other sort of aspect of this that maybe probably doesn't help is the fact that at least when we were kids, there is a sort of a direct line of the length of games that kept going up. When you were playing your NES and SNES games, and when I was on my Amiga, like games weren't really that long and they were kind of difficult. So you were kind of motivated to maybe play something else after a while because you were either stuck or you finished it. And that obviously isn't the case anymore. Like just even single player games are now like fucking 200 hours. Like that was not the case before. What's the equivalent of The Witcher 3? Like fucking Shinobi. You know what I mean? Like it's not. How long was Ocarina of Time? Like was that only like 25 hours or something?
Probably. I would guess like 16.
Yeah,
15 hours.
I can't remember honestly. Less than
probably
30
felt
sure.
infinite back then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like now it's as long as Half-Life 2 or something. I don't know.
It's as long as 30 games of Deadlock.
Wow, 27 hours. It did not feel like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your slash played now is a whole other thing.
It's also, just to add one more ripple to this, it's also not even like none of this should come off as like a bunch of dudes in their 30s being like, and young people don't appreciate video games. It's like, I have fucking friends that are like 35 who it's so hard for me to motivate people. Some people in my friend group, I'm not naming names, but if you're listening, you know who you are. No, I'm just kidding. Carl, you fucking asshole.
You Zach, way to go.
It's hard to motivate people, like get off their jobs and they want to fire up the game that they're into at that moment that's comfortable. And unless like my co-op friend group will only all play the same game together if there is like a perfect storm of influences where it's like, that's the game this dude wants to play and this dude wants to play and I want to play all at the same time and we're all available at the same time. Because otherwise, if that spark isn't there and it's super convenient, people will just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna like fucking play 4 Dota games and go to bed.
Yeah, so, exactly. Especially after a long day of work, Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It's a Swanson TV dinner of gaming. I don't want to cook tonight, babe. Let's just.
It's good enough.
No nutrients.
Yeah.
But, nope. All the salt I'll ever need.
There you go.
Speaking of new interesting things coming to the world of video games, there is a decent chance that by the time this podcast has hit the airwaves, there will be a Switch 2 officially announced. Perhaps, who fucking knows? According to somebody I'd never heard of, Nate the Hate, which I think is some sort of content creator, the announcement is coming January 16th. I don't know if that to me sounds like some horse bullshit. I think that what is probably more the case is that, did you see that Genki thing at CES? Mm-hmm. There was
the mock-up.
Yeah, they had Genki, the accessory creator, who was making like a third party like Switch 2 holder or bag
like
or
dock
something.
Or controller thing or something like that. Yeah.
And they had a mock-up of a Switch 2, obviously, to put it in, which they probably weren't supposed to have. But he showed it in a video on like IGN. No, it was like some Italian tech show. And then it was still there all weekend. So then all the games press came over and were also looking at it. And then the guy was giving quotes like, yeah, I don't know, we have this thing here, and we think it's coming out soon. And then later news broke that Nintendo had sent lawyers to the booth.
Yeah, I bet.
So confirmation that there is a Switch 2.
And then a distant muffled gunshot was heard from inside one of those cubicles they assemble on the show floor.
Well, I'm interested in what you guys make of this, because obviously the Switch comes out, I think very exciting, very popular. It was like the biggest in terms of both screen size and import handheld in the world of gaming in a long time. Obviously, I will always love my PSP. But my PlayStation Vita to a lesser extent. But the Switch was a big deal. But we live in a very different world now. We live in a post Steam Deck world where you buy an expensive handheld and, oh my lord, my entire video game library is already on this. What do you guys make of a Switch 2? I have so poorly utilized my Switch in recent. Thankfully, my wife has been playing a bunch of that Zelda game. What's it? The
Tears of the Kingdom?
Echoes of Wisdom.
Echoes of Wisdom one. Yeah, that one. Echoes of the actual Zelda, Princess Zelda game. So it's been getting some use over the holidays, which has been great. How are you guys with a Switch 2? Are you interested at all, or what would you need to be?
I very rarely play Switch. I have nothing against it. I just don't want to play multi-platform games on it because they usually run worse and look worse. And if they don't, I'm always like, well, now I have Steam Deck, so why would I bother playing it on that? I think for people who already have a ton of Switch games, Switch 2 is going to be huge. Hopefully, if it's a performance boost and it's got backwards compatibility, I would assume both of those are true. I think we're in a time now where handheld gaming is kind of the future. Xbox has already talked about doing something with a handheld console and Xbox. Moving forward, there's new consoles that are going to, like the Lenovo Go 2S or
even
whatever.
At CES,
is
right?
Steam.
It seemed like a bunch of people were just kind of throwing in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's good. I think it's a good thing. I think it's an exciting era for playing video games on the go. I think if the future consoles, if PlayStation 6 has something like this that's not the Portal, that'll be great. Playing video games wherever, that'll make it a lot more convenient.
But the Portal looks
and it's
funny.
exciting for form factors too, which is great.
Don't you love the Portal though? It just looks, it's a big TV screen with a DualSense cut in half stuck on.
They invented the Wii U again. They did it.
Zombie U coming to PS6.
For me, it'll entirely depend on like the first party Nintendo games that are available. My relationship to Nintendo post like Nintendo 64 has always just been, I would never buy a GameCube, and then I'm like, oh, Resident Evil 4 is fucking sick. Like I have such an adversarial relationship to hardware that like when people are like, oh, it's got this like this spec and like this frame rate and stuff, my eyes glaze over and my brain turns off. Like hardware for me might as well be a plate that I eat food off of, Like
That's really good.
That's like my relationship to hardware. I couldn't give a shit less if it's made of porcelain.
Yeah, I mirror that feeling of I am buying this Nintendo piece of hardware so I can play a game like Beautiful Joe and Resi 4 on a GameCube and a bunch of other cool shit on there. Like definitely, not Tears of the Kingdom, the first one, fucking
Breath of
the Wild for the first one. I'm with you. I feel like that's where it needs to be. I do worry though that they've sort of helped to create this space, and now they're sort of behind on it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they announce. That's the thing. By the time this comes out, they might have announced it, and it fucking cleans your house.
So cool. You have to own one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Frank, what about you? You're all in on the deck, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Steam Deck, but I also like, especially with what we do, is like I gotta have it, so I'll absolutely get it. But what's great is I will sell my old Switch, and then that's already like $100 or whatever. Or usually GameStop will have like promotions where it's like trade in your thing for 30% credit. I once did that for GTA 4 or something. They had like something where it's like if you trade
10
in
games,
trade in like any hardware, we'll give you an extra 30% if you pre-order like Grand Theft Auto 5. And I had an old iPhone that had a broken like home button. So I had a broken iPhone and I turned it into GameStop, and the guy taking it in was like, okay, great, it works. He didn't like touch the button that was broken. So I got like so much money or store credit. And so, guys, trade in your old Switch, broken or not, to GameStop. They don't know. A lot of them are shutting down, unfortunately. But
I wonder why, Frank.
Yeah. Hey,
one
power
iPhone.
to the players.
They're paying you for your broken iPhone.
Power to the players.
Take back the power.
You should go in there and say like, they try and kick you out, and you're like, "This is power to the players, man.
Hey,
I know my rights."
Fist in the air as they drag you out.
Yeah.
My honest thing is like I don't play Switch as much because they don't have an achievement system. What's the point?
There you go.
But
There you go.
I have so many Switch games I have not beaten, like Smash Brothers. There's so much stuff to unlock. I haven't done all the stuff in Odyssey. So yeah, if this is a great reason to replay old Switch games, great. Oh yeah, they will probably announce new Nintendo games in the future, but like I'll get it. I don't know if I'll mess around with it much. Like I do like, again, like Now You in Retro Achievements has made like the Switch Classic Library moot. Like I love that. Like they do have you can play Nintendo games, you can do N64 stuff, which is cool. But like now Retro Achievements is a place replace that. But I'll definitely get it. I don't know if I'm ecstatic about it. Whenever they announce like a new Mario or
That's the thing.
a new the big thing that's been rumored is like their next Mario Kart is going to be. When they like teased it forever ago, they're like we're changing the way people play Mario Kart. So it's like. That'll be great. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'll
You're
get
now
it.
the cart and you're riding Mario.
Yeah.
They're running.
now
They're
that
going to
I
do
would be
Sonic
interested.
R, but for Mario.
All right.
Let's go.
We're so
I'm back in.
Do you see how American I am now? I didn't say Sonic or, because then there's going to
wow.
be 15,000 comments. Or.
What is this, a game about canoeing?
No, that's most VR games. VR games.
VR, yeah.
It's a lot of canoeing games. Nope, don't have a segue from Canoe into
Speaking
Sonic
of Sonic
3. Yeah. Oh, fuck, I was right there. Speaking of
Talk about
Sonic R,
3.
Sonic is racing into the box office and racing out with all of the cash. Sonic 3 is only the second video game in history to break 200 million domestically here in the States. It's made 380 million worldwide. The only other movie to break 200 million in the United States was the Super Mario Brothers movie that came in 2023. Where
Only other movie?
the only other video game movie. Sorry,
video
my
game movie.
apologies.
Okay.
No,
All right,
that would be.
My poor Oppenheimer didn't make $1 billion.
I know, right? No, it didn't, unfortunately. Yeah, it's out there, and I have seen it. It is one of the things that I have seen. I have it in my list of games this week. Sonic 3. Have any of you guys watched any of these Sonic fucking movies?
Watch the first one. It is a movie.
It's a movie.
Undeniably. It had a start, a middle, and an end.
It did. I will say, as the father of a 6-year-old girl who is vibing with the Sonic universe currently, we watched all 3 movies. Did I talk about us watching the movies last week?
Yeah, you watched the first 2.
I watched the first 2, yes. We watched the third one, and it was fucking absolutely brilliant. I absolutely adored
Nice.
it. Like, as a movie, putting on my little film critic hat. No, it's not that. It's a very high production value 90-minute cartoon. It's CG obviously, but it is incredibly watchable. Yeah, we were pissing ourselves laughing. They have I think the thing that I like about it the most, and this is clearly they just put a reference in it that people like the references. They have a fucking elaborate Chow Garden reference. Which, do you remember the Chows? Do any of you guys remember the Chows?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. How could you forget the Chows?
The fucking Chows. Is that mostly? I feel like that mostly the Chow Garden thing was a Sonic Adventure thing, right?
Yeah, that was just Sonic Adventure 2, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they really did that again.
Right. And I was just like, that to me was incredible. They went to like this sort of like Frank Howley dream-like Japanese restaurant where it was all people dressed up as chows dancing around, called the Chow Garden, which I really appreciated. Jim Carrey is completely he's a lunatic in this one, which is pretty great as Robotnik. The evolution of Robotnik in the first movie from he's sort of like a tech, not a tech bro, but like a tech scientist guy in the first one, to just being, now he's just like pure Robotnik, just big belly, like crazy mustache, the whole shebang. Yeah, it's great. If you have a young child and you just want to be a fun dad for the day.
If you have a young
you're a
child,
Sonic
or
fan.
if you have a stash of edibles that you've been waiting to break
Yes.
into for a long time.
Yes.
I have a question about the Sonic movie. James Marsden's character, named Tom Wachowski, he's like the protagonist. I know nothing about these movies, and I just want to know a little bit about the framing. He's like the everyman in the Sonic world. I'm curious about his role.
Yeah, he mostly goes by Donut Lord in the movie, because the sort of the setup of the first movie was that Sonic was a baby, and he had this like owl mother, which I don't really understand, who basically a bunch of echidnas were coming to kill her and him. So then she used a ring to transport him somewhere safe, and they end up in a place called Green Hills, Montana, and he's basically like the local fucking Bigfoot, where like there's one crazy guy who talks about the blue devil who lives in the woods, like the fucking local like kind of homeless crazy drunk guy or whatever, and Sonic lives in this town, but nobody knows who he is, so he's named everyone certain things, and he thinks the James Marsden character, who's the local cop, is Donut Lord because he's always out there eating donuts, and Sonic likes to drive past him really fast, so that he fucks with his little speed gun thing. So he ends up being the de facto father character to Sonic. Like, he finds him at one stage when he's running away from Robotnik, and then he's a good cop. He decides to pal up with Sonic and help him on his quest, and then he's basically like his dad for the next two movies. So
is there a Boys in Blue joke in any of these three movies because he's a cop?
No, that
Okay,
is a
just
soft lob as well. That's right there.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
right
available.
there.
Sonic producers, I'm available for 4.
Maybe the funniest joke in the entire thing is when because you spend a bit of time with both of them in the first movie, and then maybe 40 minutes in, they meet for the first time, and he thinks it's a raccoon that's in his garage, and he goes in and he shines a light, and it's like this fucking anthropomorphic, weird looking 3.
Meow.
Yeah, and he goes, meow? like a question mark. He doesn't like make a meow noise. He just kind of looks at him and goes, meow? Like, is this going to work? And, no, he freaks
Do you
out.
remember when that first trailer dropped and it was Ugly Sonic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
scene, right?
That's the scene.
was
That's
that the
one where
scene?
Yeah.
That's the first time you see Ugly Sonic, and it's the scariest thing ever. That is such a weird moment in internet history of like this awful, obviously wrong-looking Sonic design was replaced because fans were mad. Or who knows, maybe it was actually Tinfoil Hat, a secret marketing
That would have been
ploy
incredible.
that would have been so good. But the fact that happened, and then the stupidest possible thing that could have come from that, they made a Chippendale, I think it was Chippendale Rescue Rangers remake movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like a CG version of that. And it has Ugly Sonic in that movie. And he's like an important character in the
Is he an important? Does he
yeah,
talk
he's
and
like,
stuff?
he talks. He has like
No.
conversations. He shows up in more than one scene.
Oh my
He's,
God.
Do they call him Sonic? Like, it's Sonic.
Yeah, they call him
I'm just
Ugly
checking-
Sonic.
I'm
His
checking
name
if
is
they didn't
Ugly
call him
Sonic.
like Chuck or something, and it was like
that would have been even funnier potentially.
There's a very funny
gotta go
Pikachu
quickly.
joke in this one as well, where I think somebody's saying to Tails that he looks like Pikachu. They keep introducing characters. So in the first one, it's Sonic, and in the second one, they introduce, I think it's Tails and
Tails,
Knuckles in that
okay.
one. And Knuckles
Yes.
is Idris Elba, which is very funny as well.
That's actually amazing.
And then
Who's Shadow?
Shadow's Keanu Reeves.
It's the Cyberpunk series, baby. They brought it back.
They know
rides
what
a
they're
bike.
doing.
It's like they
Does
just,
he do the Akira slide?
Oh, he must. I didn't,
He has to,
he
right?
has to
Movies
do
are
it, yeah.
back. We're so back.
There must be at least one shot where there's the Akira slide. Yeah, I don't. And then close your ears if you don't want to get spoilers for who's going to be in the next one. But because I was like, who the fuck are they going to add in now? Like, this is we're going to be
Big the Cat?
So, like, somebody in the comments said Big the Cat, and I was like, could you imagine if we're going down? Perhaps even more obscurely, 2 characters from the Sega CD game Sonic CD. The robotic Sonic, is it Robo Sonic, whatever it's called? You know, the one that
Metal Sonic or something
Metal
like that,
Sonic, yeah, the one that Robotnik makes. That turns up at the end, a bunch of those, and myself and my daughter literally went yes when it happened. Was somebody jumps down from the sky with a big fucking like mallet thing, and then
Oh, fuck. Amy
turns up, baby. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Amy's
wow.
in. Amy's in. So yeah.
I'm trying my best.
No, that sounds awesome.
That's cool.
That sounds great.
I think it's cool that they care so much about the Sonic series. Like, obviously,
Weirdly, they can't.
yeah,
Like
weirdly.
the Chow
They
Walker,
like obscure shit.
fucking yeah. The Chow Garden shit was like. There's a bunch of like very specific weird things that are in these movies that are like, and they're also like playing fast and loose with it in the way that like the Mario movie fucking didn't. Like, this movie is so unserious. Like, Robotnik seems to die at the end of every movie, and then is just magically back in the next one. Like, which is kind of funny because like that's what happens at the end of the levels. Something, you know, or at the end of the games, you like destroy Robotnik, and then oh fuck, Robotnik's back. You know, we don't know how, but like the fucking he's back. Shit, we gotta. So I don't know. I appreciate these these weird fucking movies.
The specificity and the clear, like, I don't know if reverence is the right word, but at least like the attention to like these hyper specific things in Sonic, I think is commendable, because I think this just as easily could have been a franchise where they made a generic kids movie and just swapped in like, oh yeah, like Tom the raccoon, we'll swap him out for Sonic. You know what I mean? Like it could have just been like a kids movie with Sonic paint over it.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened with like these types of movies in the past few years. It must be just like way better writing. I think that's the writing is the most important fucking factor for any of the. And I mean, CG is also really good. Like it clearly has. But I do feel like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, these movies were just like thrown, like the Angry Birds movie, right? They were just thrown out to try and earn a quick buck and then never seen it. There is a degree of like Jim Carrey's in these fucking movies. Like what the fuck? And he is milking it. Like he is not just turning up for a check. Like clearly he is. Clearly the check is really good, because that's why he's in all these Sonic movies. But were you saying like he said he'd come back for another two because he was like,
he's like, I'll do a fourth one. After the second one, he said he was going to retire, and then he was like, only if I get a script written in gold ink will I come back to movies. And apparently Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was written in gold ink.
I bet that's probably a fun role to play too, Robotnik. Yeah. I bet like if someone came and they're like, hey, can we do like Man on the Moon 2? And it's like it's even sadder. I don't think Jim Carrey would be like, yeah, I don't know, man. That's like, I feel like that might push him over the edge. But he's like, yeah, I'll fucking go in a weird egg suit and scream laugh.
I think I was gonna say, I think I also heard something where Jim Carrey's grandson is a big Sonic fan, so that's the extra
that'll do it.
That'll do it for sure. Yeah, Sonic 3. It's probably out of theaters, but we were at I think one of the last showings. Maybe it's still on though. Who knows? Clearly making a lot of money, more money than the Robbie Williams biopic probably.
No.
You want to listen to some Millennium?
Do I want to watch Monkey Man?
Yeah.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, that's the I don't think Robbie Williams has much play outside of the UK. He used to be in a boy band called Take That, who also fails to break outside.
Sorry, it's not called Monkey Man. That's a different movie. Better Man, starring a monkey.
Yeah, they did a biopic of this English pop star who has put out some good songs, back in the late 90s. But they replace him with a CG monkey. The whole movie is a CG monkey.
What is the reason?
So you care do that if you don't know who Robbie Williams is?
So they say that it's yes, exactly. They say that it's because like they are. I don't think he could play himself, and I think having like it might be a bit weird to have a biopic where they have like 6 different versions of Robbie Williams, even though most people don't know who he is. So I think this is a way of them sort of doing something artistically interesting, and also perhaps getting people who don't even know who Robbie Williams is to watch this Robbie Williams biopic. It's made the guy who directed The Greatest Showman did it, which is it's kind of like, like Kingsman has some really good like directing in it. You know what I mean? Like maybe the movies and the plot is not amazing, but like they're kind of interesting to watch because you're like, wow, you shot the shit out of this fight scene. This is crazy. This is kind of similar, but with dance numbers. That's kind of the vibe, I think.
That's cool.
So
okay.
I wonder how many people accidentally watched this because they thought it was a biopic about star of Patch Adams, Robin Williams.
Oh God, yeah, the Robin Williams biopic, and he's a monkey.
I only have one question. Does the monkey talk, or do they do a biopic where, because I was thinking it would be very avant-garde if they did a biopic of a human man, but it was an ape that never speaks the whole movie.
Spoke.
But he's like doing drugs and drinking, and people are talking.
Oh, he does drugs. I think he does cocaine.
I went to Robbie Williams' Wikipedia, and there's a lot of blue links that are like alcohol, cocaine, drug overdose. So I was like picturing the monkey in my mind in these situations.
There you go. Well, you don't even have to picture it. You can see it for real by checking out our sponsor this week, Better Man.
Paramount Studios.
Look, it's been an hour. It's time to talk about the game on everyone's lips, folks. Frank Howley, tell us about the dynasty, the warriors inside of that dynasty, and the origins of the warriors inside of that dynasty.
Yes, this is amazing. So it's 2025. There's a new Dynasty Warriors game, which is amazing because I've been obsessed with these games for over 20 years. Like Dynasty Warriors 3 is like one of my all-time favorite games back on like PS2 2003. And so ever since then, every Dynasty Warriors game, every Dynasty Warriors spinoff, the Musou games, like I've always loved these games to the point also where there's like such hardcore diminishing returns where it all becomes slush. It's like, sure, great. Get the weapon, hit circle, kill 10,000 enemies, listen to podcasts, whatever. It just becomes like a treadmill, but it's very satisfying. So this is the brand new one, Dynasty Warriors Origins. The kind of reason why this is like a hard reboot is the last one, Dynasty Warriors 9, came out like, I think 2018, 2017, a while ago, and it sucked. It was not good. It was... They changed the Dynasty Warriors formula and made it an open world game, which no one wants that with Dynasty Warriors. And like, so it was just bad. I didn't play much of it, and like no one liked it. Like maybe they're revisionists. I don't know, but like I did not like it. So, but in between Dynasty Warriors and Origins and 9, what they found success in was doing all these like, franchise spinoffs. So there's like the Hyrule Warriors games, which are really good. I platinum Dragon Quest Warriors. There's a Fist of the North Star Warriors. There's a Berserk Warriors. Like any anime franchise you could think of, there's probably a Musou game. I love the One Piece Warriors game. So those are really good. So it's kind of crazy. Like, oh, they're going back to Dynasty Warriors. All right, I can't wait to play as Zhao Dun. I can't wait to play as all these characters. But this is like, I'll talk about it broadly. But like, so with Dynasty Warriors Origins, this is a retelling of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms story, which is what all these games are based on. So it's like that itself was a Chinese novel that, mythologized and romanticized the actual, military history of China and all this stuff. And so in this game, instead of being able to play as all these, all the historic Dynasty Warriors characters, you're playing as like a new protagonist who has amnesia and you don't know who you are, but you're gonna fight alongside all the characters. And the structure of this game is like traditional Dynasty Warriors, where it's funny enough, there is kind of an open world map of how you get to the next mission. And so yeah, but the core gameplay of it is you're on a battlefield, you have your allied forces, and you're fighting the enemy, taking down camps. But the thing that makes this game a little bit more dynamic compared to the earlier ones is anytime you encounter a general or like the way of a Dynasty Warriors game works is there's like thousands of enemies on screen, but every kind of like section of the map, there's like a general in control of that area. Once you kill that general, then the kind of tide of battle shifts in the favor. So the game is always like, just rush to the generals, kill them, move on. This time though, when you run into a general, it almost becomes like a one-on-one like Sekiro boss fight where you have to parry, you have to do dodges and stuff, and it's still very much button mashing. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh wait, I gotta think for a second. Okay, like. Which you've never had to do in a Dynasty Warriors game.
Does that feel good or does that feel bad?
It's good. It's actually pretty fun because that's the thing is like I would always play. It's like, all right, yeah, it's fun and satisfying, but it's like it becomes like pretty rote. But here it's like, oh, it's pretty fun. So now the game really is like, still kill thousands of enemies on the way, but like once you get off your horse and you start fighting these boss fights, but then if there's like 4 people around, you're constantly like pairing and stuff like that. And it's like, and again, it's not like Souls levels difficulty. It's like even. Because the same team did Neo, which is really good. And Neo is kind of the same. Hack and slash, boss fights are intense. So I'm like, oh my God, this is actually really good. And I'm not alone in that thought. This came out to like, I think IGN gave it a 9, which is like, whoa, wait, other people like Dynasty Warriors? So it's so hard to talk about this game. Like I maybe if you've never played a Dynasty Warriors game, maybe this could be a place to start. There is a demo. I would recommend like. I don't know if Dynasty Warriors is for everybody. I love those games. They've always been so dismissed, but I love these games. So yeah, this is really, really cool. So my only complaint with this game is, yeah, you can't. Previous Dynasty Warriors were so fun because you could play as like 50 different characters, and they all had such like silly, like very over the top anime, like just character designs and voice acting and stuff. Here, those generals are still on the field, and you're fighting alongside them, but not playing as them. But in the game, you get 9 different weapons, and each weapon is a complete new like skill. Again, like Dark Souls or anything like that. A whole new like play style. So it's almost similar to like when you would pick a different character in older Dynasty Warriors.
You can understand the production reason why they might do that, make that swap, instead of having to animate and do all this stuff for all these characters and give them their own voices and stories. Yeah.
So and I can see like maybe with this one they wanted to like, okay, let's not go all out on this. Let's see if we like it. So this is the kind of thing where I imagine the sequel is gonna be, oh my God, yes. But this is really good, and I'm very happy with it. And the progression is very satisfying. So it's like you'll run on the open world. You'll run into generals and be like, all right, here's a challenge and kill 100 enemies with a sword or whatever. Now I'm playing the game in Japanese audio. The one thing I love on the PS2 games, the English voice acting in the Dynasty Warriors games were so like Resident Evil 1 level like corny.
Terrific. Brilliant.
And so, so I still, when I read the subtitles in these games, I'm still remembering. Yeah, like nothing can top it. I mean, but you can't play this game in Japanese, Chinese, or English. I'll playing it in Japanese, but like I do like that you can play it in Chinese too. So every mission you do, like you can be leveling up a weapon challenge. There's all these different like meta progressions, which will give you skill points. There's skill trees. You can equip different accessories, different weapons. Like if you play on harder difficulties, better loot drops. So that kind of progression. So it's very satisfying to play, and yeah, a little bit more mentally engaging than previous Dynasty Warriors, which was very much just like, okay, yeah, kill this next. So yeah, I am like kind of surprised because I went into this being like, I don't know. The other thing too is like the enemy density on the screen is insane. Like they specifically say they built this for the PS5 generation and up, whereas like 9 was before. I don't know. 9 was PS4 game. So enemies' bodies will stay on screen. It's not like super ragdoll physics, but you'll have like clumps of bodies on the ground, which is new. So that's really cool. Yeah, it's just a sea of people, and it's so satisfying to like kill them all. But then if there's the generals, then you have to do the pairing stuff, which is good. And the only difference is like, compared to how like their most recent games, like with Zelda and One Piece, all the anime stuff, those were so colorful and bright. Here, the art style is a little bit more gritty and serious, but it still looks really good for a Dynasty Warriors games because those graphics have always been kind of crappy. But it looks good, it plays good, and
it's hard to render 1,000 people.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, no, absolutely. And what's impressive, and this game has like the performance mode, all this. I'm playing it at 60 frames. You can toggle it to 120 frames on the PS5. Wow. My TV doesn't support that, but so that's impressive. So at 60 frames, there's no slowdown, and which is amazing because again, historically with Dynasty Warriors games, oh my god, they would chug as soon as you would have too many characters. So performance is great. The only criticism I have is I don't know if they'll update or patch this. The text is so small, even on my TV. So when I tried playing this on my Steam Deck through like the PS Remote, it is hard to read the options sometimes. So like I would almost, it sucks because like this is like kind of the perfect Steam Deck game. I will also say reading does not matter in these games that much. Like, but it's a little thing where it's like I can't make the text bigger. It's a little, I don't know. You can.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm watching gameplay of it here, and they keep showing like KOs. Is that knockouts?
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
Which is I don't know why.
You're definitely killing these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like there's no blood in these. The only time there's been blood is in Berserk. And I think they changed it to kills instead of KOs. But that's just an old school thing. But yeah,
KOs. Well, this person on this gameplay I'm watching is just doing a story mission, and they have 1,300 KOs. Right
oh yeah,
now, so.
Oh yeah.
It came up like when they got 1,000. It came up like 1,000. Like fucking Peggle.
It's like Vampire Survivors. It's like 1,000 skill points. You just got the sword. It's like yes. It's so it's very, very satisfying.
Incredible. Dynasty Warriors Origins, or Dynasty Warriors, as I was calling it, which maybe the TV show Dynasty. Remember that old 70s TV show? They should do one of that. Yeah, with the shot of the mansion. Yeah. Just that.
I only know that theme song from a joke in Family Guy.
Oh, terrific. Great.
Yep.
All my references are contemporary. It's available on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series of various descriptions. It's also on PC. What were you playing on? It looks like the demo's on everything too. What were you on?
I was playing on PS5.
Excellent. Good stuff.
Get those trophies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this might be one I try to platinum this year. Looking at the trophy list, there doesn't. I mean, like there's one.
How
that's
big
like,
do the numbers get?
I don't know. There's a trophy for killing 200,000 enemies. That's not in a single mission. That's cumulative. But I was like
10, 15 minutes.
Wrath.
Yeah. And I will say, based on Jesse's recommendation, when I was playing Dynasty Warriors, I was listening to Reggie's audiobook talking about Nintendo. I was like,
nice.
That's the experience. That's how you play Dynasty Warriors. You played. That's how I did it like 10 years ago. Played Dynasty Warriors, put on an audiobook. Oh my god, it's the best gaming experience ever.
I'm just imagining you playing the game though and like slaying all these guys, knocking over 900 people, and in your ears it's like the last moment of what's the guy's name? Satoru Iwata's life when I went to visit his funeral. Like, oh my god.
No, that's it. I was like doing the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and it's like I'm here in Osaka and I'm getting on the Shinkansen and we can't be late. It's a very important day. I'm like, this is the best
we had to get a cab so we could get there on time, or they would hate me forever and fire me from Nintendo.
Yeah.
You're like, 1,000.
Jesse, do you get like grants from the Canadian government by suggesting Canadian audiobooks to people?
Is that Canadian?
He's Canadian, isn't he?
No, he's
Reggie Fils-Aimé.
I'm just
No,
a
he's
guy
from
from
like
the
the
Bronx.
or something,
That's
right?
chapter two. Chapter two. I'm just a
he
kid
talks
from the
about it,
Bronx,
right?
and I
Just
learned
a kid.
nothing in life is easy. You got to work hard. And when
No, but the CRTC does send me money if I recommend
Yeah.
Canadian stuff.
I would pay so much money to have Frank complete this audiobook and then just from
Yes.
memory paraphrase it.
Yeah, give
in
us
character.
the cliff notes.
I would pay
No,
$1,000.
I want him
for
to
that.
do a recording of the audiobook.
Oh,
I
it's
want
so-
it like,
Oh, no.
like an alternative track where it's Frank
Yeah.
doing Reggie.
Yeah, but there's no text in front of him. It's just like trying to do it
Okay,
from
right.
memory.
I want you to do the Jeff Keighley Reggie Fils-Aimé interview at the end as well. I want you to play both of them.
I'll listen to it on the plane, and when I come back, I'll recite it from memory. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would
Terrific.
do anything for that.
Look forward to that episode 214.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. Let me quickly throw this one in here. I played some of Cruel, which is I don't know which is the first of these games to do this, but like it's the like Angerfoot or something where you are running through a linear interior level, shooting people, trying to go fast. You know what I mean? Like you are a first-person shooter running through walls, kicking through doors, shooting people, trying to get to the end fast. I feel like there was a couple of games that came out like 4 or 5 years ago that sort of kicked this whole thing off, and no pun intended. But it's kind of one of those with like a sort of an aesthetic vibe, I would say, more than anything else, that feels Hotline Miami-ish in tone. There's a couple of particular things like the way they transition through levels and stuff like that. But yeah, it's available on Steam. It's $10. It has a sort of a build engine look to it. It is 3D. There are no 2D or sprites or whatever you call the billboards, whatever you call those 2D assets that walk around like that and always face you. Yeah, it's interesting. It's you start in a level. There is a fire behind you, which is like catching up with you. So you are like sort of encouraged to keep going. And basically you have a gun which needs to be reloaded. You need to have bullets for it. You pick up melee weapons, or you have melee weapons. You can also use left click. You can pick up health packs in certain places and hold F to use them. But I think you have to stop to do that maybe, or at least
Can you
press
beat
a
hop?
button. Beat hop?
So can you like bunny hop?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Is there a jump in this? I don't know if there is, actually. It doesn't have that feel. It's more strafey, I'd say, side to side. Not the game strafe, but more sort of that thing. But yeah, it has that vibe of, that vibe of a lot of those games where, yeah, you're trying to sort of just last as long as you can. Obviously, this is point to point. So by the end, you get to a white door at the end. Then you can go to the next level. There's sort of like almost like not buckshot roulette. What was it called? What was the name of that game? The Russian roulette game. Was it buckshot roulette?
Buckshot
Yeah, it
roulette,
was.
yeah.
Yeah, almost like, kind of like that. So there's a couple of influences in here you can kind of see, where you can like take a gamble and you'll either get killed or it'll give you extra items or take away your health or whatever. Or there's like a weird puppy in the thing. You can feed the puppy. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means because I don't have anything to feed this puppy with. Or keep going. And then you go to the next level. And I think there's 3 different. I'm still stuck in the first building, let's call it, the first section of the game with multiple floors you have to complete because it's relatively challenging. And I've not played all that much. And then there's 2 more I think you unlock. So yeah, it's an interesting game. Has a certain vibe and feel to it. A couple of different. I feel like there's some meta progression stuff that maybe I've not clicked into yet. Different weapons, things like that. But yeah, interesting little thing.
I like the art style a lot. The gameplay sounds pretty cool. This isn't an early access, but it is only currently on version 0.6.3. So
Sounds
it looks like they're definitely doing some updates to it. Yeah, I can
That's
see this being
update
really cool.
0.6. Oh no, you're right though. I guess yeah.
So when they get to 1.0, I imagine there will be more levels and more music, more gameplay. That's cool.
Yeah, interesting little thing.
Seems
Cool.
awesome.
Jesse, what did you play?
Yeah, I played a demo for a game called Locator. This is not out yet, but it is a very good demo. So the way that they describe the game is basically it's like GeoGuessr if it was a detective game instead of just trying to pin a location on a map.
Oh, this looks
Yeah,
cool.
It's really cool. If you like Obra Dinn, this is kind of in that same sort of vein. So The goal of the game, you're playing as a detective who's looking for a girl who's gone missing. Her sister sends in a letter and is like, my sister's gone missing on this alien planet. She crash landed. And the tutorial section is you're sort of learning about this alien world that Abigail, the girl you're looking for, has landed on. And the way that you figure out where she is there's a series of photos that somehow got back to you from the sister. Each of them has a little description under them, and it's a photo that she's taken, that Abigail's taken on this alien planet. You have a map in front of you on a table with a bunch of different tools. So it's a bit like Papers, Please. You have these sort of physicalized maps and books that you can scroll through to get information. And based on what you learn about the world over time, you have to pin the location where the photo was taken on the map. Now, it doesn't just tell you like, oh, you were 500 kilometers away. Oops. It's not like that kind of GeoGuessr. Your goal is to find 3 correct answers, much like Obra Dinn, and then it'll tell you that you got them all right. So it has that like the physicalized presentation that I really like, but it also has this detective game part to it, because I thought it would be a little like the tutorial section's a little straightforward. It's like, oh, you're on a crashed spaceship and that's where the photo is taken from. I wonder if it's at the only crashed spaceship on this alien planet. But it very quickly becomes something a little bit more complex. So in the tutorial area, one of the first things that you go to that sort of ranks up the difficulty, made me go, oh, this is a very smart video game, is she starts taking photos in a dark area, which is clearly inside of a building. And I was like, how the hell am I supposed to figure that out? Well,
don't give away a clue for one of the things
of course.
in this game.
But I'm just saying she has a book with her. But there's a book with her that you can go through, and it sort of can give you enough context to figure out where she may be inside of a building, which is like, I was like, how do you make that work? How do you make that interesting? Oh, this is the twist. And then the next area is building on that even more. So it's a really great mix of something that I think people enjoy, which is, or at least I enjoy, which is playing GeoGuessr. There's like a novelty in that to some respect of figuring out where something is on a map. But also the detective, like puzzle solving of a game like Obra Dinn, where it's like, oh, this very specific rule about the world that you've learned, that these huts maybe are a certain shape, or maybe this building has a certain color to it. Oh, okay, that's how you determine where she would be in a context where you can't possibly figure it out. Like if she takes a picture of the sky, how would you know where she is? Oh, using this information. Just a very, very smart game. I'm excited to play the full thing, but I think this is a demo that should be on more people's radars.
Yeah, I'm going to download this. No date, it looks like. They haven't said necessarily when it's coming out. Nothing on the Steam page anyway, but add it to your friends list, as I said earlier. Locator.
As
yeah,
they
looks
say.
really interesting. That's a
this looks
novel
incredible.
approach. Jeremy, you've played a couple of things here. What do you want to dive into one of them, or which is your
I'll talk about
deepest
I'll talk about the more relevant one first, and then if we're not overly long, I can attack on a little more nostalgic game. Path of Exile 2, a game that came out about a month ago into early access, sequel to Path of Exile 1, obviously. A Diablo-inspired action RPG. I absolutely love Diablo 1 and 2. I hated 3, kind of. I didn't hate it, but I played it and was left, it was like my favorite restaurant was serving shitty food now, and it was not the worst thing I'd ever eaten, but it was a far cry from the thing I loved about it. And then Diablo 4 I did not like. So I feel like I kind of like soured on the Diablo-like genre. There have been others that have kind of piqued my interest over the years, like Grim Dawn, but just never could take the plunge or whatever. It was like a sore spot because Diablo 2 was so important.
Yeah, sure.
So I finally played Path of Exile 2 over the last couple days, and it's fantastic. It's really good.
Nice.
I was sort of afraid that it was going to... The way people talk about Path of Exile is very mechanical and very rigid and purely about skill trees and gear.
It's like you have to get a PhD before you can play it.
Yeah, that's true. But it's not even the complexity of it. It's just that, like, I've never heard anyone be like, oh, and the story, the world, like these things. And, as much as the core of Diablo 2 was, getting like a part of a set, and it's like, oh, if I can only get the boots, then I'll have like double stamp. Like that is a huge part of the appeal, obviously, and why people love Diablo 2. But the atmosphere and the characters and the sort of like uncanny early CG of Diablo 2, a lot of these things were part of the experience that I were instrumental to me. And so I never tried Path of Exile 2 or Path of Exile 1 because I was afraid it wouldn't capture anything other than sort of the getting loot, powering up stuff. But playing Path of Exile 2 over the last couple days, I've only played about 4 hours, so I'm still early in it, which is probably a very small number for the Path of Exile heads out there. It really I don't know about the story yet because I'm so early, but it is capturing a lot of the like atmospheric notes and sort of like tonal notes that I think make Diablo 2 great. Because Diablo 2 is relatively story light. I think you could sum up the story in a paragraph or two, honestly. But it is just sort of like passive storytelling, I guess is what you call it. It's about being in that world and how it feels there, and it's oppressive and it's dark in a way that I feel like was lost in later Diablo games that were sort of the cartoon version of it or something. And yeah, the way that Path of Exile 2 wears its inspiration on its sleeve, there are a couple things that I clocked as kind of overt nods to, there's like Act 1 is a dark forest, much like Diablo 2, with an encampment as the first town of sort of like exiles, much like Diablo 2. There's like a guy who used to be at the camp and now they're like, he's like a monster now out there, much like Diablo 2. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's capturing a lot of the sort of like tonal things, some as like homage or reference, and some more as kind of just like, this is what works about the genre, so we're going to do it with our own twist on it.
What class are you playing as?
I'm playing as a monk. Something interesting about it is that your stash is shared across characters. If you roll,
that's dope.
Yeah, so like I just found monk is really fun. Like I have I'll talk about some of the mechanically interesting things about monk in a second, but I found like a really good staff and a really good wand, and now I'm like, ooh, I should re-roll as a witch because now I have a cool wand for my necromancer build as a witch. So there's kind of an interesting like it's not like you're progressing other characters as you play one, but now it's like the threshold is slightly lower to trying other characters, which I think is a really interesting way to allow you to have alts without completely starting over.
Yeah, it almost like encourages you, like if you get something that your monk isn't going to use, but you're like, oh no, actually a ranger would like really utilize this bow or something. It's kind of like a cool. That's a smile. Yeah, that
was a thing in the first game too.
Well?
I think you could buy shared stash tabs in Path of Exile 1, or at least cool. I remember that being there. I played so many hours of PoE.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I
don't
high
touch
school.
any of these games. Which is why I keep calling one the other. Pillars of Eternity and this fucking
PoE. It's the
yeah. Jesse, have you played 2 at all? Or?
I haven't.
Okay,
no,
cool.
no. But my buddy, my best friend, to be more specific, sorry, Zamir, just loves Path of Exile. He's been playing it the entire time. I dropped it, I think, when we got out of high school. But he's been playing it this entire time. He's really excited for 2.
Actually, when did the first one come out? Is it that old?
At least a decade ago. At least 12 years ago. Because it was before I started dating Cassie. So yeah, over a decade.
Back when he locked in the best friend name, and Cassie's just like, sorry, that
she's the other one.
It's like money in the bank. You got to fight for it.
I put them in a big arena, and they had to pick their class. No, yeah, my buddy is still playing it. He's talking about how much he loves it, but it's not like it's still getting to that level of content, right? So Path of Exile 2 just dropped. It's not even out yet, right? It's still in beta.
It's early access.
Early access. So
okay,
they're still getting to that point. But from what I saw, it's funny. Actually, I was at PAX East, and I wanted to play it so bad, but I didn't realize it was Path of Exile 2 at PAX East. I just saw a big Path of Exile thing. I remember saying to my buddy, "Why the hell is everyone lining up to play Path of Exile 1?" And then we left. It was the last day, and I was like, You moron, shit. You stupid idiot. Learn how to read.
They kept because it came out and it says 2013, but like they kept adding expansions for years, right? Wasn't there?
Yes.
Or like updates, I guess.
The base game was always free, but you could buy supporter packs to get more stash tabs, and you could like build up from there. I mean, most of the fun of playing it, like Jeremy's saying, the first game, it had story. Like it was very interesting to learn about the world. I remember Hillick and like just learning a bunch of, but it was very small early on. It was only like 3 chapters, I think, or 3 acts, which had very distinct locales. Like one's in a jungle, one's in this wet, murky beach, and it's like you fight crabs and whatever, and you get a shabby jerkin or something. Like it's a very fun.
I'm shabby jerkin every day and fight crabs.
Hey, settle down. Can we go one episode with you not making a joke like that? But it's just playing Path of Exile 1 was a lot more about building up your knowledge of the skill trees. Like you said, that was the focus. It was made by fans of Diablo, but they, when you become a big fan of that genre, I feel like your goal is to make something that appeals to endgame players, and endgame players cared more about the mechanics and progression than they did about the story, which isn't to say that that's not important, because clearly now that they're making the second one, they're like, it's time to really build in the story. Something that I thought was interesting about Path of Exile too, and I'm curious what you have to think of, or have to say about this. When they were talking about it, it was a lot more, and this seems to be a trend for action RPGs. They were focused a lot more on making something that's like a hardcore action RPG, not one about quickly running through every area and spamming your AoE abilities so you can pick up the coolest loot. It was more focused on like dodge rolls, on slower attacks, more intentional actions. Is that coming through in PoE too, or are you just very quickly able to go from like one punch to the whole world's dead?
No, I that's actually one of the things that I like the most about it is I've played Diablo 2 like 1,000 times. Like I replayed a little bit of Diablo 2 with my girlfriend, and when we would do it, we would walk up to a character and I would just say the line the NPC was about. Like I just know it back to front, and to a point that it's probably fucking annoying to be around me if I'm playing
awesome,
Diablo
though.
2. I just do in Deckard Cain. I literally quote, I do a Deckard Cain voice when I'm driving alone in my car, and I haven't played that game. It's psychotic. But so there's an element of that when I play Diablo 2 that is like, it's kind of, I could like sleepwalk through Diablo 2. There, even
Right,
once you get
yeah.
to higher difficulties, it still is like, you know, if you're sloppy, it's easy to die or whatever, but it's not a difficult game. And part of that is familiarity with it. So when I started Path of Exile 2, at first I was like, oh, this is cool and interesting because it is familiar, but it does feel like I need to think about things. And at first I thought it was just a lack of familiarity with the mechanics and stuff. But I actually do think it's like a more punishing take on the sort of like clicking around ARPG formula of Diablo, which I think is like, it's important and interesting for a few different reasons. One is that I just think like the skill floor of just like generally, if you take a cross section of people who play video games, I think there's probably a higher skill floor for people, especially people who play like action RPGs, maybe is sort of like a, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's like a hardcore PC crowd, but definitely trending a little more that way. But the other thing is, yeah, it's incredibly easy to die, and in a way that is like, I think the dodge roll is really interesting. I was not sure how people felt about it because I know it wasn't in Path of Exile 1. And so I Googled Path of Exile 2 dodge roll, and everything that came up was like, this is the best thing ever, or this is fucking god awful and it ruins the game. So it's clearly very polarizing. But I think it's as someone who loves Dark Souls, loves Diablo 2, and didn't play Path of Exile 1, I think it's a great twist on the formula.
Cool.
It's an ability that can basically interrupt any other ability, which I think is interesting. So it's not quite like Dark Souls level where you're completely locked into an action. There are certain actions that can interrupt other actions. You can queue up a spell and then queue out of a dodge roll or whatever. But yeah, that, and also the abilities have interesting synergies. Like I've said, I've only played Monk, but there's a few different sort of like, there's mana and health, obviously, but there's power charges. So I have an ability that if an enemy is low health, they get a little icon that I can like one hit kill them, call them, and get a power charge. And then that power charge is a thing that augments other abilities that I have. So there's a lot of sort of like, they've clearly taken a long, hard look at the types of abilities that are fun in games like Diablo and action RPGs generally, and found more interesting ways to kind of synergize them and build them together. And the other thing about that is that you in Diablo 2, you were kind of locked in. I mean, obviously, like in later Diablo games too, to some extent, you're locked into the track that you pick. It seems like you can multi-class pretty ridiculously in this. Like, it seems like you could build a monk if you wanted, who's also summoning skeleton minions and stuff.
That's cool.
Which, Jesse, was Path of Exile 1 like multi-class stuff like that at all, or?
You know, I can't remember the specifics on whether or not you can multi-class because I was, again, playing very early in the life of that game. But a big part of it with the skill tree and what made it so interesting was the fact that you could branch off from anywhere. Like, you have a starting point that you have for each of the classes. Sorry, God, frog in my throat. I'm just so beat up about Path of Exile.
He just loves Path of Exile.
But there's different directions you can go on the skill tree. So like your goal as a player was to go from where the archer started or where the ranger started or the necro, and you'd go, or the witch, and you would like specialize, but also you'd be like, oh, I want something from this skill tree. So I have to find the most efficient route to get over there. They're not doing skill gems in this one, right? Like you don't, the way that it worked in PoE 1 was if you wanted to use an ability, you had to have a slot on your armor that was the same color as the ability gem, and then you could put it on the armor and then use it. They don't have that in PoE 2,
interesting.
right?
They have a sort of similar thing where you do have skill gems, but they're not equipped. They're not inserted into armor. There's like a separate UI where you insert them.
Okay.
So you get a skill gem and you choose what skill it is, which is like a very intimidating thing because the skill gems unlock skills, but then they have support gem slots which augment those skills. And there's like a little thing that's like recommended, and if you click it off, it just shows every support available. And some of them you can like literally brick your build. Like you could build an ice monk and then do a support thing that's like minus 75% ice damage from all abilities. Which is, I think that's so fucking cool because it's like just letting you off the rails to build, because like you could build the best build ever, or you could build the worst monk imaginable.
So does that mean that your skills were socketed to your armor, your equipment you were wearing?
Yep.
Does that mean you could swap equipment and be a different build?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, you would still want to try to build your passives around that, your skill tree around that. But that was what I think made Path of Exile persist for as long as it did. Because there was a point where, and I remember this video so vividly, there was a point where hunting for equipment was how you made the strongest build, so you could win a league, so you could be the best player and be on the leaderboards and everything. But there was a point where hunting for, I think it was called the Tabula Rasa, or something like that, where
Richard
it was
Garriott's Tabula Rasa.
Yeah, he was in the game. You could be knighted. No, but it was equipment that had all white skill gems on it. It was like a unique, so you could have any, and it was you try to get links in the original game. So like if you wanted to have 2 blue skill gem support gems on your original attack, you'd have to find something that had 3 blue sockets and they were all linked. So this one item that had the 6 white links on, or the 6 white things, the ultimate version of that was getting a 6 link of that. And I remember watching this video of this French guy who was rolling for hours trying to get that thing, and he lost it. He was like, "Oh, my 6 link! Oh shit, I lost it!" And like I still say that to my buddy. Sacre bleu. I don't know if he was from Montreal, but Tabernac, he was just like, they just lose it. So that was like, there was so much community around that game, and just looking for stuff. So the fact that it's persisted for this long, and they're even keeping original Path of Exile alive while doing updates for Path of Exile 2, because it would be foolish to drop the community for that. So it's, shout outs to Grinding Gear Games in New Zealand, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're keeping it going there. It's awesome. I'm glad to hear PoE 2 is so much fun, Jeremy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the story's good, because I played Path of Exile. I didn't even give a shit about the story. Like, there was things to care about, but eventually it's just like, whatever.
Yeah,
give me my cool abilities.
I reserve judgment on like the quality of the story, but so far just like setting up the world, and I've met some interesting people, and I haven't met a Deckard Cain yet. There's no Deckard Cain stand-in. I'm waiting to have an old man in a cage who I free, and then he identifies my items. But as soon as I get that and a cinematic where man looks like an uncanny old baseball glove, then I'll be happy.
Wild that they've been working on this game as long as they have, and also that this is not, it's early access, so you got to pay for it. There's no like free version of PoE 2.
Right, it's $30.
Yeah, and it has 86,000 positive reviews, or 86,000 reviews on Steam, and it came out like a month and change ago. It's pretty crazy. What's the original one? I mean, I know these games are popular. I knew these games were like incredibly popular, but I wonder what the original PoE on Steam looks like in terms of players, because that's obviously free as well. Isn't it free?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, 250,000. So like 231,000. So honestly, PoE 2 is kind of like trending probably even better. So that's
it did better
crazy.
On launch. It had a higher, I think, concurrent player rate than the original.
Well,
game.
that makes sense, I guess, because you've built up all those people.
Yeah, you get the built-in audience and then new people. Yeah,
that's wild. PoE 2. Very, very cool. You played a little bit of Final Fantasy XII as well, Jeremy?
Yeah. Can I just talk about this for a minute?
Because
so I'll keep it brief here. This is my girlfriend's favorite Final Fantasy game. For some reason, my brain I just automatically assumed that Final Fantasy games after 10 were not for me. I've like dabbled in 13 a little bit.
That's what I think as well about Final Fantasy games 1 and above.
That's a controversial position, but I respect it.
He loves Origins, though. He's huge on it.
Yeah, exactly. So I fired this up sort of like, it's fun to like have your significant other play your favorite game. And then like, I'm just going in open. I'm not going to be like, and this sucks. And why did they do this? Like, I just wanted to see what was up with it and have fun hanging out with her. But I was astounded by how fucking cool this game is. The story is a little more serious than sort of the wackiness that I like in some of the early Final Fantasy games. And I'm still like waiting to sort of get hooked into that. It has some really good characters like Balthier, who is essentially Han Solo, and his companion, who is essentially a sexy Chewbacca. There are a lot of weird parallels.
Are you saying regular Chewbacca is not sexy?
Listen, I don't want to. I'm not judging Chewbacca. He's not for me.
Keep shaming Chewbacca fans.
He's not for me. I'll just say.
Is that Fran? Is that
yes.
who that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she and I had just watched Star Wars, and then we started playing this game, and like Balthier is like a roguish kind of like, I'd love to go in there and face some danger, and you're like, oh shit, that's Han Solo, and then his like companion who doesn't say much, who sits in the co-pilot ship in his airship. The airship when it takes off does like a jump to fucking warp speed speed. There's a bounty hunter who's hunting for Balthier on behalf of the Empire. I was like, this is fucking Star Wars. And since Chelsea and I just watched Star Wars, she's like, I'm like a little embarrassed because like, she was like, I never realized that this is just fucking Star Wars. Amazing. There's also like the main character is sort of like a dumb, like young blonde dude who's kind of, Luke Skywalker or New Hope era. There's a
kisses his sister.
I haven't seen that part yet.
He kisses his sister?
Maybe. I know in Star Wars he does.
Who does? Sorry, he does.
Luke Skywalker, yeah.
There is a masked like villain who has a voice that sounds like this. I was like, this is fucking Star Wars. So that's funny. But the thing I wanted to talk about,
like Chewbacca? I guess there's Moogles. If there's not the Chewbacca, there's the.
That's true. They're more like Ewoks though, probably.
Ewoks, I meant.
Yeah, the Ewoks.
Yeah. That's a good point.
You can tell I'm not a big Star Wars person.
The battle system is really fascinating, and that's the thing I wanted to talk about briefly, is that it's sort of the missing link between the action RPG of like contemporary Final Fantasy games and the turn-based of old. It's almost like, I feel like it's somewhere between an MMORPG that you play alone and your friends are AI, and something between that and like classic CRPGs like Baldur's Gate that are like pause in real time. What
do they call it? Active time battle?
Active time battle is like the turn-based thing where it doesn't wait for you, that they use, I think, starting in 6, maybe. I can't remember exactly when ATB started, but it's kind of like that, but you can pause to select, to like queue up actions. But essentially the thing that's interesting about it is it has this thing called the Gambit system, where you are creating AI behavior trees for your companions, which is so fucking fascinating because, again, like Path of Exile 2, it allows you to create terrible options. Like you could create a rule for your AI that like heal an enemy if an ally is below 50%, like attack them. If you can create weird behaviors that are emergent. So it's basically just like unveiling the logic that your AI follows and letting you customize it in ways that are very abusable and very breakable. And yeah, at first I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but it's just this sort of like Baldur's Gate MMORPG Final Fantasy combat system that is like, it's so fun and it verges on too chaotic, but it's right up against that line where I don't feel like I have the control that I have in a turn-based battle system, but it's like, it's fun. It feels like things are happening that I'm not in total control of, but I have just enough control that like the car is constantly almost veering off the road and I'm grabbing the steering wheel and directing it back. But yeah, I was shocked how good this game was. I don't know why I always thought it was one of the bad Final Fantasies, and it's actually like probably in my top 5 already after 15 hours.
That's awesome.
All you need is someone else you like who likes it. That's me in the Sonic movies, man. I'm just there for her.
Infinity Nikki,
exactly.
Thank goodness for your daughter.
I've gone down some dark holes. Yeah.
No, 12 is, it's funny that you mentioned the sort of connection between an MMO and traditional Final Fantasy or like a CRPG, because 11 was the MMO. So it's cool that they kind of made, but 13, the next one after that, obviously most people don't like that. It's pretty maligned. I enjoy it, but I like the story of it more than the gameplay. But the Gambit system from 12 is like the core of 13. That's almost all it is, right? As you sort of defining what abilities you're going to use. Not so much the AI part of it, like you're not, but there is that a little bit of that there in 13. I think it's funny because you reminded me, I haven't played 12 in a very long time. You reminded me that, oh yeah, I really like the combat from 12. Why didn't they just do that in 13? Oh, that's what 13 is, the evolution of that game. I totally forgot about that was present in 12. So it's just funny, the progression. And then in 14, I don't know what the hell they're doing. It's circles, just dodging circles. And then 15, forget about it. It's Kingdom Hearts now, baby. Final Fantasy's given up. The one after this is just going to be a movie. You're just going to watch Final Fantasy 17. It'll just be a movie.
Steve Buscemi will be in it.
Again. Dude, they keep getting him back.
I would watch that. I think Steve Buscemi should be in all Final Fantasy. But yeah, Jesse, you know more about like contemporary Final Fantasy games than me, so I'm glad to hear that you like 12 because yeah, I don't know. I've had a few people recently be like, you gotta play it, and it's easy to, I don't know, when you hear someone talk about a game and they're like, it's fucking amazing, and it's a game that you have for some reason unconsciously internalized as like not for me, it's easy to be like, yeah, that's like, if that's your favorite Final Fantasy game, I get it, everyone has their favorite or whatever, but my eyes were open. It's an incredibly unique battle system, and I was blown away that they did something so innovative and weird in a mainline Final Fantasy.
Are we on the upswing? Is that what it is, you think? Do you think we're like having that generational people who grew up with 12 or like 12's great? How far are we from 13 enjoyers rising
20
up?
years old, so
Yeah.
maybe that's next.
I will say, I did look up the reviews for 12, and it did review well at the time when it came out. I feel like Greg Kasavin gave it like a 9.5 or something.
That's a pretty good
based
9.
Greg.
That's a pretty strong 9. Get it into retro achievements there, Frank. You can plug away at Final Fantasy 12. That's the last game we're talking about this week. We got one email though. It looks like here, Frank. Throw it in there.
Yeah, we haven't been able to touch emails because we recorded so many episodes like in bulk and then just didn't get the chance to. So in
A lot
the
of
future,
old emails. Sorry,
yeah,
folks.
if you feel free to resend or ask questions again, podcast at noclip.video, but we did pull one this week. Sam wrote in and asked, after finishing mouthwashing, this had me wanting to ask, what are your favorite games that you've completed in one sitting?
Ooh, Mad World on the Wii.
Oh,
What? That's not even that short a game, is it?
I don't know.
It's the black and white one, right?
Yes,
With the
yeah.
blood,
I
the
definitely
red
finished it
blood.
in one day because I was like, babe, I want to beat one video game today. She was
Wow.
like, you have 2,000 on Steam, but sure, go to the Wii
Stick
collection.
Gary Jules on. Let's play this.
You die, get paid. Bull cash. I'm about to do this. I love that game. It's so stupid. It ends with a great fight where you punch the teeth out of a man and it says "mad" on it.
Oh, really?
That's,
Oh, that's pretty
game of the year, baby. That was a good time. That was fun. I like punching.
I'm kind of an anti-play it in one day person. Like if I'm really enjoying a game, unless it's like a really particularly short, like 2-hour game, like indie game, like there's lots of those I've completed in one sitting. But like I genuinely, if I'm really enjoying a game, I'll stop playing it so that I can enjoy it again. Like especially if I feel like it's short, like I won't pile through it. I remember at Oberdin, like trying to stretch that thing out as much as I could because knowing that it was going to be pretty finite. Yeah, like I also do a thing where like if I'm playing even an even bigger game that I know I'm going to like love doing a lot of things in it, I will do side activities just to push. Like Cyberpunk was a good example of this, where I knew I wanted to spend more time in this world and like Red Dead and GTA, so I'll intentionally not go down the golden path for as long as possible so that I can enjoy it. Fallout New Vegas was another one. I didn't complete that game for 15 years because I just waited at the end and then went and did all the side shit. So I'm probably the worst person to ask this question to.
I did that with Disco Elysium. I took like
Right.
6 months off after I've played like 2/3 of it. I was like, I love this so much. I'm not ready for it to be over. And then I just like walked away for a while, which is odd. That doesn't happen to me much. My one sitting game is I was visiting. It was almost out of necessity because I was in Boston for like 5 or 6 days visiting family and friends. And Cuphead just had come out recently. And me and my bud Brian, I went over to his apartment and we just stayed up like all night ripping joints and playing Cuphead to completion. And I don't know if this counts as one sitting because at some point we were like right at the end, it had to go to sleep for like 6 hours. But woke up, had coffee, and then played the last like few boss fights or whatever. But Cuphead is mine.
Excellent.
for me, it was the first time I played Stanley Parable, and that's a short game, but I went into it blind and was like, oh my God. And I think I just, again,
You
maybe
got the
like
first ending and you were like, done, baby, 6 minutes, let's go.
I think it was just like 2 and 3 hours, just going down every variable and like and I think the original thing has achievements, so I think I just try to get every achievement. Or like there's some that are insane. I think there was like one where it's like, like it's I think I'm probably wrong, but there's like an achievement that's like do your job and you just basically press E at your computer for like 200 times and it's like, all right, that was a full day of work, time to clock. It's like there's so many achievements that are pointlessly waste of time, but like that first the time I discovered Stanley Parable, it was like, oh my God. Didn't get going on Twitter, has anyone played this? And since then, but yeah, Stanley Parable for me was like, yeah, it was great.
Excellent.
I think Portal. I think also the first time I played Portal, like when I remember that feeling too, playing Portal and being like, oh, cool, I beat it. And then it's like, oh no, where do you think you're going? And then the second half of the game starts and it's like, oh, and then I just didn't put it down until it was like, whoa.
Oh, class.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second one was much longer as well, I think.
Yeah,
A lot longer, yeah.
There you go. Thanks for that email, Sam. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening. In terms of Noclip updates, we announced over on at least social media, we've not put a trailer up on the main channel. I'm not sure if we will. We'll see. That the Disco Elysium documentary is something we've worked on. We obviously told this to the patrons. I did a patron show from Estonia about 7 months ago, so I think they got in on that. Jeremy's been toiling away at the edit for the past few months, I took over a couple of weeks ago, and we're getting through it. We've got a lot still more to do, film stand-ups and piece it all together, and there's some more interviews getting done as well, remote ones, maybe some in-person remote ones as well. Basically trying to organize all that at the moment so we can augment the ones that were filmed in Talon. But yeah, that's an exciting one. Don't expect it for a few months, like 2 months at least. We're taking our time with this one, but we just wanted to let people know that we're working on it. In fact, we've got a clip from it on this week's this month's patron show. So if you become a $5 patron over at patreon.com/noclip, you get access to that. There's a couple of clips in there. There's a clip from the Dwarf Fortress stock in there, which I'm cutting at the moment, and there's a clip from from the other thing which we haven't talked about publicly. So that little series we're making a series about the sort of technical aspects of games, where we'll have an episode on how doors work and how like cameras work and how trees work. There's also a clip from that one. It's for a game that's not out yet, but a game that's been released or announced, so it's pretty cool. And that's it for the week. Are you guys up to anything? Frank, when are you heading out? You heading out later this week?
Yeah, I fly out Thursday, get in Friday, and then I have a wrestling show Saturday and Sunday and more. So I can't wait.
Have fun. Do it. If you see Frank Alley in Tokyo, get a selfie, send it in to us. Jeremy, Jesse, what are you guys up to for the weekend? Fun?
It's nothing fun. I wish I had fun things going on, but stuff this week. It's busy.
I'm following Frank to Japan. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Probably getting back into some work stuff, getting back into the flow. Needed a few weeks to chill over the holidays and reset my brain, and now I feel reset. I feel activated.
Love it. I think I've got a pretty chill week. I saw just lots of editing bits and bobs, some things here and there. I'm trying to think. There feels like there's something interesting happening and I can't remember it. Who knows? I'll go upstairs and talk to my wife now and she'll tell me something cool that's happening, but I don't know what's going on. Probably chilling out a little bit. It's bizarrely warm. It feels very spring-like here. Like the weather's been fucking gorgeous and the nights have been super bright. We had a fucking full moon last night.
Gorgeous for you.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, no, SoCal's
it's going great for me, guys. Hope you guys are
taking the brunt of it.
Much.
Hey, yeah, this is with the cost of life up here, this is the one thing you get to enjoy.
Climate change so bad. It's nice outside.
You get to enjoy a little bit of it, but yes, we'll be back next week with more podcast shenanigans. So until then, have a good one. We'll see you on the other side. Bye.